Mary Talks Relationships presents the idol of absolute autonomy. Our era worships autonomy. We no longer admire courage or loyalty, but independence. I don't need anyone. I can handle it alone. I make my own way. These aren't cries of solitude anymore. They're badges of honor. The goal isn't to love, but to rely on nothing. And beneath this pride hides fear. Fear of needing, fear of trusting. We've built a world obsessed with control. Every bond looks like a threat. Asking for help feels like weakness, gratitude like debt. The other person becomes a potential interference in our perfect plan. We glorify the self-made, the solo, the independent. But this cult of autonomy corrodes what holds a human world together. Gratitude, trust, reciprocity. A teenager insists he wants to handle life on his own, believing dependence is failure. Yet that independence is often flight, from the duty to give back. To receive means to owe love in return. An adult says proudly, "I owe nothing to anyone." It sounds strong, but it's the confession of someone who no longer trusts. Without trust, all that remains is efficiency. This illusion spreads everywhere. In work, independent and self-driven are the new virtues. Team spirit is marketing noise. Everyone advances alone, politely detached. In relationships, the same. Together but not dependent. Connected but free. Translation, I'll stay as long as I'm comfortable. Love turns into a contract of mutual detachment, and the more we chase independence, the more brittle we become. Total autonomy doesn't exist. Even breathing proves it. We depend on air we didn't create, on others we'll never meet. Every human being is a network of debts and gifts. To deny that is to amputate part of reality. This obsession hides behind beautiful words: empowerment, freedom, self-respect. But power without ties is emptiness. Everything that grows, grows in relation. A child with a parent, an idea in dialogue, a creation in collaboration. Absolute autonomy isn't strength, it's sterilization. Listen to how we speak now. My space, my truth, my boundaries. It's the age of my. But the more my expands, the more our disappears. And without our, nothing human lasts. We work side by side, live door to door, scroll through faces. Together yet never belonging. Even spirituality has caught the virus. Everyone wants a personal connection to the universe, a private truth, a custom piece. Dependence on tradition or wisdom sounds oppressive, yet all wisdom begins with transmission. To learn is to depend, humbly. But our culture confuses pride with enlightenment. It wants to be wise without discipleship, free without roots. We've raised children to be self-sufficient, adults to need no one, and the elderly to disappear quietly. The ideal citizen is polite, efficient, and alone. Love becomes optional, friendship decorative, solidarity bureaucratic, dependence is shame, but strength begins there, in the courage to need and be needed. Asking for help is not surrender, it's participation in life. The world, however, prefers control to connection. It dreams of humans who function like machines, precise, autonomous, and cold. And that dream, if achieved, will leave us perfectly independent and perfectly inhuman. When autonomy becomes absolute, it always ends in isolation. What was meant to set us free ends up locking us in. The desire for control turns into anxiety in our, and the more we try to master life, the lonelier we become. It started innocently, taking responsibility for ourselves, then for our emotions, our future, our happiness. Now we feel responsible for everything, every failure, every lack, every pain. The price of total independence is total blame. The day it breaks, there's no one left to help. This inflated autonomy feeds an anxious hyper-control. We plan, predict, secure. We try to foresee every variable as if safety could replace trust. Behind the word independence now hides fear. Fear of needing, fear of failing, fear of being surprised. It's vigilance disguised as strength, exhaustion disguised as maturity. Modern life runs on constant self-surveillance. People track their steps, their sleep, their focus, their feelings. Every aspect of life becomes data to monitor. But the more we monitor, the more fragile we feel, because control only exposes what we cannot hold. Autonomy turns into a quiet panic, the terror of letting anything unfold by itself. This control isolates. We stop delegating, start micromanaging. We stop trusting, start verifying. In love, in work, in friendship, the reflex is the same. Protect first, connect later. But when protection becomes a habit, connection never comes. A man insists on solving everything alone. He calls it strength, but it's exhaustion in disguise. A woman avoids attachment, proud to be emotionally independent. But her independence is built on fear of disappointment, and what both call freedom is self-defense turned lifestyle. The result is a polite loneliness, surrounded, connected, but untouched. We text instead of talk, post instead of confide, hide our weakness behind self-care slogans. We no longer know how to rely or to let anyone rely on us. The paradox is cruel. Hypercontrol breeds dependence, dependence on control itself. The more we hold on, the less peace we have. Anxiety becomes the hidden cost of autonomy. Because where there's no trust, everything becomes danger. Real autonomy isn't mastery, it's discernment, knowing what to hold and what to entrust. But our culture prefers tension to trust. It calls anxiety awareness and vigilance freedom. It praises those who never relax and quietly buries their loneliness. Autonomy pushed this far becomes a private cage. You think you're free because you need no one. But the truth is simpler. You've only made your fear comfortable. The human heart wasn't made for perfect control. It was made for confidence. And without confidence, even freedom becomes a prison. We thought freedom meant needing no one. We now see it means choosing who and what we depend on. Freedom doesn't begin where ties end. It begins where ties are chosen. Life without attachment isn't independence. It's weightlessness. And nothing alive grows without gravity. The word dependence frightens us because we confuse it with submission. But all human life rests on mutual dependence. No one thrives alone. The child who refuses help falls. The adult who refuses love dries up. Modern culture has replaced belonging with self-sufficiency and called it maturity. Yet the loneliest people are often those who insist they're self-reliant. A world without interdependence doesn't make free citizens. It makes anxious ones. Everyone guards their space, their time, their image. We call it boundaries, but often it's fear. Fear of needing, fear of owing, fear of responsibility. Because to depend is to answer, and to answer is to commit. So we build polite distance and call it balance. Real freedom begins when we choose bonds that make us grow. When giving is no longer a loss but an expansion. It begins when we stop measuring and start serving. Freedom isn't the absence of constraint. It's the ability to choose which constraints make life meaningful. Fidelity, loyalty, promise. These are not chains, they are anchors. A woman caring for her ill father is not less free, she is more. Her love limits her time but deepens her life. A man raising his children isn't trapped by duty, his commitment gives him shape. Freedom without responsibility dissolves into emptiness. Freedom with devotion becomes creation. We fear interdependence because it demands trust, and trust is the most courageous act. It means risking disappointment, accepting vulnerability, believing that the other can fail and still be worth loving. Without this trust, nothing flows. Not affection, not collaboration, not creation. A world without trust is a world holding its breath. True freedom is not proven in isolation, but in relation. It means staying whole in the midst of ties, not by withdrawing from them. It's the maturity to say yes without losing yourself, and no without hardening. It's learned not in theory, but in encounter, by living, not by analyzing. The lives that endure are those built on chosen dependence. The craftsman needs his apprentice, the teacher needs her students, the friend needs another's presence. Mutual reliance doesn't shrink freedom, it gives it form. Freedom is not a mood, but a way of belonging rightly to the world. Interdependence isn't weakness, it's design. It's not fusion, but reciprocity. It's the courage to live open, not guarded. When we dare to depend freely, on truth, on love, on what transcends us, fear loses its grip. Freedom is not perfect control, it's enlightened dependence. It's knowing you're not complete alone and finding joy in that truth. Chosen ties don't bind, they humanize. The one who grasps this no longer needs to prove independence. He simply lives, freely because he loves. Nothing is impossible for those who choose to love.